So by the time in your 30s, it starts to decrease testosterone. And by your 40s, you have about the half of testosterone that you had in your 20s. Now, at the same time, with what happens in the ovaries is that the monthly regulated ovulation starts to become irregular. And if you think, I often think that menopause or perimenopause, and we'll touch on that now, is actually nothing else but ovarian failure. And we are all aware, and I'm sure you guys remember from undergraduate studies that we've all learned, we've all been taught about premature ovarian failure, and that's before 40. There's a whole lot of tests and things that we do, but it actually starts early, from 30, 35, 37 onwards. Women can start to have symptoms of perimenopause. And perimenopause is the period leading up to menopause. Menopause is actually the first day of your last menstrual period. Now, no woman will just know that. So we will say that she's postmenopausal if she's not had a menstruation for 12 months. If every time she bleeds, you start to calculate again from the following 12 months. So it's a very academic thing to know exactly when your menopause was. But everything leading up to the last period, your final period, is actually a period of we would refer to that as perimenopause. And even the period after that, until it's 12 months, would be perimenopause. So the transition that's happening in our body. And if it's 12 months after the last period, from there on, one would use the term post-menopause. That's semantics, but sometimes it's important to know these things. Perimenopause is fascinating. It's a transitional period, and it's divided into early, middle, and late. And initially, the ovulation becomes irregular. So what will happen is that she'll start seeing her cycle changes. And that, as I said, can happen from 37 onwards. So it's a very slight change sometimes, just a day longer, a little bit more clots, not always 28 days apart, sometimes 24 days apart, sometimes 32 days apart. So the duration in between the cycle, the cycle becomes irregular. So, or it could be more, or more pain. So there's slight changes that starts to happen, and that's because ovulation doesn't occur so regularly. And sometimes we talk about loop cycles, where there's follicles that grow and produces estrogen, but there is no egg in them, so they're not that fertile anymore. That's why fertility becomes an issue as women age. So from 42 onwards, 42, 43, usually it's really difficult to fall pregnant. And if it happens, it's that scarce little follicle that to escape, and that's available. And it really doesn't happen that much.
So there's a physical change, 37 to 45-ish, somewhere there, and then there's a physical women's parts, and then physical body. Is there changes?
I think so many aspects change. Body odor, hair growth, fluff on your face, skin that becomes drier. All of a sudden they start struggling with acne. So it's skin, hair, vision, hearing.
So
the
I
list
suppose
is so long.
with this process or this continuum, with irregularity, with the cycle, then also there's fluctuation in the hormones, and
Absolutely.
that's causing a lot of the symptoms.
Yes, havoc, and the havoc is the symptoms. It's not just the cycle that becomes irregular; it's all these other things that's happening. And women at this point in time, what I experience in practice is that they don't connect the dots, and we need to advocate and empower our women out there that they start connecting their dots. So many women struggle with mental health in their middle 40s. You've got this difficult teenagers at home. Maybe you're working and there's a lot of stress, and you just experience anxiety. And they don't realize that it's not just life and natural stresses. The hormonal changes also contributes a lot to that. So we really must create awareness around mental health and the impact of hormones on that. skin, hair, mental health, vision, hearing. The list is just so long. Sleep disturbances. People think that women especially think that, they worry at night, they lie awake. But why do they lie awake? It's also associated with the hormonal changes.
And it's not just the hot flushes.
Not always. When you ask them about sleep, they will, when they actually think about it, they'll say, I am warmer than before. And they don't have a hot, a night's sweat where they're soaking wet, but they're not using their winter pajamas anymore. Or their husband should just not touch them, like cuddle in winter like they did a year ago. And they don't always realize that that's part of the hormonal changes that's happening in their body. So there's such a lot of symptoms that we should start talking about. I've actually got a menopausal, perimenopausal questionnaire, about 37 symptoms that patients can have a look at. And start to educate themselves. And I think that's important that we start doing that from a very young age. Become familiar, awareness around your body and how it changes.